Hey guys, welcome back. Today we are going to get this hood locked down, all the bodywork areas, and do a final sanding. We're going to get this painted gold again. We're going to do a 10 3/4 inch long sanding block today, rather than the longest one, because this hood's got a curve going this way and it's kind of rounding down that way. So I think anything longer than this is probably going to be unnecessary. I have a used piece of 180. We'll start with this and we'll probably have to put a new piece on. But we're gonna go ahead and block this down. Let me get some guide coat. Let's put a coat of guide coat on this hood first. All right, I got some powdered guide coat here. So we're just gonna rub it on these body filler areas. A little bit goes a long way. Okay, let's start blocking this down and we'll see what it looks like. I like to show people how this guide coat works. So you can see here, I just quickly went over it so far, and you can see like that's low still, that's still low, you know, all these areas here. So that just means I need to sand more. So I'm probably not going to show the whole sanding process, but I'll show you for another couple minutes here. Okay, you can see a lot of them are already starting to come out. So I'm gonna go ahead and finish sanding this hood down with 180 off camera, and then I'll be back to show you what it's looking like. I don't wanna have to have an hour-long video of me just block sanding. So I'm gonna pause this, get this sanded down with 180, and then I'll be back. Okay, I'm almost done sanding with the 180. You can see I hit old primer here and here, but I'm not all the way through. So that's what it took to kind of level that out. I got a little bit more to go back here. I'm gonna switch to the 7-inch block and see if I can't get in there better, because this hood is rolling this way and this way at the same time. So I'm gonna see if that 7-inch block will fit in there a little bit better to try to get this flattened out. Okay, we are all sanded down with 180 grit. I'm going to get my DA sander with my 1/2-inch interface pad, and we're gonna get a new piece of 320 grit, and we're gonna go over this whole hood with this 320 grit. Now, when you're sanding hoods and stuff and parts and primer, switch your sandpaper out regularly, because going over a surface to try to cut it flat with a dull piece of sandpaper is really not doing you any good, because a dull piece of sandpaper is just gliding over the surface. It's not actually cutting into the primer or filler or whatever you're using. So that's something to keep in mind when you're sanding, to try to always keep a fresh piece of sandpaper on there. I know sandpaper's not cheap, but you also want to have a good result too. So I'm going to get all this set up, and I'll come back and we'll start sanding this with the DA sander. Okay, I'm ready. Sorry about that, got interrupted. Okay, we're going to hit this with the 320. 320 grit on this foam pad. That's all we're kind of doing is we're just trying to get the 180 marks out and not cause divots in the panel. If I use this with a hard pad, if I use this DA with a hard pad and I don't keep it perfectly flat, you know, or I start getting into those contours, I could be digging into the edges and stuff and it'll just make it look horrible. Kind of look at this with the foam pad as you're kind of like buffing the 180 marks out of the primer. That's pretty much what I'm doing here. I'm just trying to get all the 180 marks out. We're gonna leave it at 320 grit and we're gonna put a clear inner coat clear over top. So I'm gonna finish this with 320 and then I'll be back. Okay, it's all sanded down with 320. I'm gonna take a red Scotch-Brite pad now. We're gonna hit the edges of the hood and this inside lip right here. And then we will get it blown off, get it in the spray booth. I'm gonna put it upside down first in the spray booth and we're gonna tape off the bottom side of the hood. Everything turned out pretty good. I went through the bare metal in a few tiny spots. So I'll mix up a tiny bit of epoxy primer with reducer and we'll just hit those couple areas just a tiny bit, just kind of fog over it just to seal off that bare metal. And then after that, we're gonna put a coat of DBC 500, or I think I have a different brand now, of an inner coat clear, and we'll let that dry for 10-15 minutes. Basically, an inner coat clear is just a base coat with nothing in it, just clear base coat. And what that does is that seals off the sanding marks. Because if you don't seal off the sanding marks in a silver, a gold, any sort of a metallic color, you run the risk of the metallics sitting in the sanding line, and then it'll look horrible. So I'm going to grab a piece of Scotch-Brite and we're gonna get these edges done. Now with this Scotch-Brite, I will also rub over the whole top surface of the hood as well. There you got dust in my camera. All right, so we're gonna hit these edges. We're just scuffing them up so that the new paint will stick. We don't want to go sanding through them or anything like that. So we're just scuffing them up good. Go all the way around the hood. And then we're also going to go over the surface too. And that's just going to kind of smooth everything out. Don't push hard. You know, this whole sanding process, you don't want to push down hard, especially on a hood. Hoods flex real easily. Over there, I don't know if you can see if I have the camera in the right spot or not, but over here, hear that? It just flexes extremely easy. So I had to go really carefully with my sanding block because every time I would put any sort of pressure, it wanted to dip down. So I'm gonna go ahead and Scotch-Brite the rest of this, get it blown off, and we'll get it in the spray booth. All right, I'm gonna get it all blown off here. When you're blowing it off, try to really blow it off well, get your gun close, and try to blow out anything that is stuck to it. All right, I'm gonna grab the hood and we're gonna put it in booth upside down on that stand. Just gotta try to get this off this one. Gotta take your time with this. Gotta just bang into anything. If you can get help to do this, it's always a lot easier with help. So I'm going to get the bottom side of this taped off, wiped off. As you can see, there's old rubbing compound or something on there. It looks like rubbing compound. I'm probably gonna take a little wax and grease remover and wipe this whole thing down real quick. Let me go grab some. Okay, I'm just gonna spray a little bit of wax and grease remover on this back lip first. And then I'll probably just wet the towel and just wipe down the rest. If I'd have known this was on here, I would have done this outside of the spray booth, but it'll be all right. So I'm gonna get this off and I'm gonna go around and wipe the whole underside of the hood with wax and grease remover. You can see there's definitely a little bit of black dirt on it. So I'm gonna get this all wiped down, then we'll be back and start taping it off. All right, I wiped it all down with the wax and grease remover, cleaned off that compound off the back lip. As you can see, there was some dirt under the hood. Take this rag and throw it away. Don't use it for anything else. Okay, now we're gonna get this taped off. I do have a tape machine with, tape and everything so that it puts it right on the paper. I don't have it set up yet because I'm trying to use up some of this old paper that I've had. So first thing I wanna do is I wanna tape off this scoop area, because that's where the most of the overspray is gonna wanna come underneath the hood. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna tape this off, and then we're gonna tape off the whole hood. So I'm gonna run a line of tape around this edge. And I always find it good to try to use longer pieces of tape rather than a bunch of short pieces. Saves time and it gives it less areas for it to leak through. Okay, stick a piece of paper in there. So do two pieces. It gets wider than the roll of paper that I have. Basically, I'm just pushing the paper into the sticky edge of the tape. Pieces just to hold this down. Might have to straighten it out a little bit once we flip the hood over. I'm going to tape this edge right there so that no overspray gets through it. Now, I think I'm going to use a piece of plastic on the bottom of this hood and then maybe a little bit of paper if we need it. So I'm going to go grab a piece of plastic. All right, I got some plastic. This is painter's plastic. it's written on there which side goes out. Because if you put this stuff on backwards, the overspray will not stick to it. Now this is 16 feet wide by 350 foot long roll. So basically, you're gonna take a piece that's as wide as the hood, and we'll have to cut it down, obviously. Try to keep it off the floor. And it says on there, paint this side. So just make sure you don't put it on backwards, because then none of your overspray will stick to it. And every time, it always happens, if you don't do it that way and you go to put your color on, your color and everything will stick to this, or your primer or sealer or whatever, and then you go to put the clear on and it'll start blowing off the plastic into the clear. So you definitely don't want that to happen. So I'm going to drape this over the whole hood. I'm going to cut it down and tape it around the edges. So I will get this done and then I'll be back. Okay, I got the plastic on with just tape down right now with some 3/4 inch tape. Now I'm going to go around with some 2-inch tape and overhang the edges. I'm going to use up a couple of these old rolls first. But what I'm going to do is take some of the 1.5 inch, I'm sorry. And what we want to do is make sure we grab that other tape. And I'm going to do this around the whole hood to where, see how it's like past the edge of the metal? I'm going to do that around the whole edge. What that's going to do is just give me a nice edge to paint up against. Okay, it is all taped up. I'm going to go ahead and get this flipped over, and then I'll come back and we'll get it wiped down with some wax and grease remover. Now, depending on what you're spraying, where you're spraying, if you're spraying somewhere where it's really hot or in a spray booth like this, where you use heat, you want to make sure you use the correct tape. This tape here is made for heat. So if you want to bake your paint, this tape won't get super stuck to your panel afterwards. You'll still be able to peel it off. If you go to a Home Depot or Lowe's or something, you buy that manila color tape, vanilla cover, manila, whatever it's called, and you put it in here, and then let's say you bake this hood at 140 degrees, that tape will just stick to that underside of this hood, and it'll just be hell to get off. So just keep that in mind. You know, if you're doing it somewhere where it's really hot, maybe you should get a different style tape. So I'm going to go ahead and get this flipped over, and then we're going to start wiping it down. Okay, it's all flipped over, and I'm going to go ahead and wax and grease remove it. Okay, I'm getting it heated up out there. I want to get that metal temperature to about 80 degrees. And then got to mix up a tiny bit of sealer, epoxy sealer, and that will be ready for some Intercoat Clear. This is the Intercoat Clear I currently have here. So this just gets mixed with reducer, and it's also made for blending. We're going to put this on the whole entire hood, a nice, good, solid coat. But first we got to hit those couple bare metal spots with some epoxy primer. So I'm going to get that mixed up, and then we will go out there, tack cloth the hood off, and put a little bit of epoxy primer on there. This is just a 2-to-1 to 1 mix because I want it to be pretty thin. I don't want it to be real thick because then it's not going to lay flat and it's just going to look like crap the whole way through. So let me pause this, get this mixed up, and go out there and put a little epoxy primer on it. All right, we're going to get this tack cloth off. I just turned on the exhaust fans. We're going to use a blowgun and a tack rag. I know mixing up some epoxy primer kind of seemed like a waste to do that, but I always like to try to cover up that bare metal before I paint. It's $1 for the cup, probably $1 or $2 of epoxy primer. So for a few dollars, it's just a little bit of extra insurance. I'm going to get this gun cleaned out. We'll get that taken apart and thrown away, and I'll be back. Okay, I'm going to mix up some of this Intercoat Clear. This is a 2-to-1 mix. Probably going to put a little bit more reducer in it than that, but we'll go 2-to-1. Want to make sure we have enough to put a good coat on the whole hood. The reason why I might go a little bit more is just the consistency of it. I want it to be a little bit thinner. I don't want it to be too thick. But I think we're going to be all right with the 2-to-1. Let me see here. I'll put some reducer in it. We'll see what it's like here. just a hair over 2 to 1. That feels good to me. Now, I'm gonna go ahead and tack cloth the hood off one more time before I put down this. And then we're gonna let this set for about 15 minutes, and then we can start putting down our gold. Now, when I start putting down the gold color, I'm only gonna hit the spots that I have primer showing first. All right, that's drying. Save the rest of your inner coat clear. You can pour it back in there. Just keep in mind that if you pour it back in there, it has reducer in it already, so it's not going to be as thick over time. But I'm going to save that in that cup for now because we might use that with the gold paint towards the end to start blending out the color. We're pretty much going to put color on the whole hood, but we might thin it out towards the end. And when you're painting hoods and stuff, don't expect to get perfect with no dirt in it. It's going to happen. You're always going to get dirt in your paint. I try to wear a spray suit. These are disposable suits. I wear them a few times and then I throw them away. The reason why I wear these suits is because I have dogs at home, and the dogs, no matter what you do, you always get a dog hair in your paint job if you're not wearing a suit. No matter how well you blow yourself off or anything like that. Now this is the paint that was left over from a long time ago. I did get some more mixed up right here. We're just going to put this in the shaker for a minute. We'll let it shake up and then we will get some mixed up. It's just a 1-to-1 mix. And then we will start spotting in the color where all the body work is. So we're gonna get this in here, mix it for about 5 minutes. Let that mix for about 5 minutes, and then we'll get it into the cup and get ready to put some on. While I'm waiting for that paint to mix up, I was looking at the hood here, and I noticed, see that? Around the edge of where I sanded through the clear, it almost looks like a little bit of a reaction from putting down this Intercoat clear. Hopefully that doesn't end up being a problem. We'll start putting some color on here, and we'll see if that covers up or if it gets worse. If it gets worse, we'll have to stop. So we'll see what happens with that. But it's almost dry. You can still see this side's a little bit wetter than this side. Okay, our paint's all mixed up here. We're gonna go ahead and mix some up into the cup. This is a 1-to-1 mix. We'll see how thick it is. We might have to go a little bit less on the reducer. I'm using a medium reducer because the spray booth is at about 75 degrees right now. And the medium reducer is good for 70 to 80, somewhere in that range. We're just going to take this up to 200. It seems pretty thick. We'll take the reducer up to 400. You do not need to wash your gun out between the Intercoat clear and the base coat color because it's just clear base coat. It just has reducer in it. There's no hardeners or anything like that, so it does not matter. Now what we're going to do is we're going to try to just hit the spots that are body worked first. Make sure you guys stir this up real good. You want to get all your metallics mixed in. That's why I like to use that shaker. Just leave that open for now. Need a new locking ring. Okay, I'm going to go out there and tack cloth it off again, and then we'll start blending in this gold, and we'll see how those spots look, if that's going to be a reaction or not. Okay, as you can see on that first coat, I went real light and kind of just dusted it on there. Because if those are any sort of reactions, I'm trying to get them to lay down so that they don't, wrinkle up or anything like that. Sometimes you'll get reactions like that when you sand through an old clear and then reducer hits it. When reducer hits that old edge, sometimes it'll make it want to wrinkle up. And that was really, really minor, so I'm hoping if I just keep my coats lighter on my color, thinner coats, more coats, with longer time to dry between, that won't lift up on me. Looks like it's going to be all right, but I just don't know yet. That's the first coat. We're going to let that set for 10 minutes, and then we're going to put a second coat on, and we're just going to keep dusting them on, and we'll see what it looks like. Okay, that's the second coat. If you guys are wondering why that stuff's covering like crap, because it is. I hate Omni paints anymore. This car was painted probably 12, 14 years ago. And back then when it was painted, the Omni paint it was like a lead-based paint, something like that. So it was different and it covered. Nowadays, this stuff just does not cover at all. As you can see, second coat, you can still see everything clear as day underneath it. This is the paint that he had brought me that was used on a bumper cover a couple years ago. So as you can see, this is the older label and everything versus that. So we might have to get into using this to top over this first, because I know this was done for the bumper cover and it was a really good match. There's not a lot in here, unfortunately, so we're probably going to have to put a coat of this over top of it once we're done using this crap. So I'm going to let that set for another 10 minutes. I got my timer going, and we'll come back and we'll just keep dusting on some coats until we get it to cover. Okay, I'm getting ready for coat number 3. It looks like those marks are going away. A little bit right here still showing, but not bad at all. I think we're going to be all right, but only time will tell. I'm going to start putting on a third coat now. Who knows how many coats this is going to take. This paint is complete garbage in my opinion. I no longer am using it other than to just use it to repair old work. Okay, that's coat number 3. And as you can see, you can still see through this stuff. I'm going to keep videoing this. I know that it's going to get boring because I just keep putting on more and more coats. But I want to see how many coats this is actually going to take to cover. Now, normally 3 coats of base, we would have been covered. We would have been blending it out. We would have been done. But unfortunately, we're just going to have to keep putting this junk on. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to take a little bit more base coat and add it to this cup. I don't know if I'm going to put any more reducer in it. I might just try to put some straight base coat. Unfortunately, what this is going to do, it's going to make this a little bit thicker, which is going to give us a little bit more of a texture on that hood. That's the downfall about putting on a lot of product, is you start getting more and more texture, and then what happens is you end up with more orange peel. But it is what it is. I'm probably going to put 4 coats of clear on this hood so that I can really block sand it down and wet sand it nice and smooth for the guy. So now, it's actually a friend of mine. I put a little bit more color in here just to thicken this up a little bit. We're going to see if this will help on the next coat. We are 3 coats into it. We're going to wait another 10 minutes. We're going to dust on a 4th coat, and then we'll see how it looks. I mean, we might be 8-10 coats into this before we get this to cover, which really sucks. But it's not a lot of product that's going on because I'm dusting it on. But even with a good base coat, when you dust on a good base coat like this, you should already be covered. So this is just a warning to you guys. If you guys are wanting to use Omni products, I don't recommend them anymore. I used to love them. I used to have great results with them. I used to use them on a lot of the old cars I painted because the metallics and stuff seem to match the old paint better than the DVCs and stuff like that. Now, those motorcycle parts are getting painted with Omni Plus. This is between their DVC and their Omni. This is the middle of the road. The reason why those motorcycle parts are getting painted this color is I painted the truck this color years ago, and this is some extra material left over for that. So that's almost a full quart. I also had a pint mixed up of the Omni Plus. So I'm going to use that I have mixed up for the first coat when I do the motorcycle parts, maybe the first coat or two, and then we'll top it off with that because I want to make sure I have enough for all the parts out of this quart, which this quart's about up to here. So that's going to make almost a half a gallon of paint. Plus we have this, which is a 1-to-1 mix, which is going to make almost a half a gallon. Now, I have not used this Omni Plus paint in a long time either. So I don't know if this cover is good or not. I'm not sure. We'll have to find out. I'm probably going to paint those motorcycle parts later on today. But I'm going to let that set for another couple minutes, and then we're going to put on coat number 4. Okay, I don't know if you want to count that as coats 4 and 5. The reason why I went over it twice is because it's really thick right now and it's kind of just coming out as a mist. not coming out real heavy. So I don't know if you want to just call that a heavier coat of coat number 4. It is starting to hide. I'm gonna let that set for probably 15 minutes or so, because I just want this stuff to dry for the chemicals to gas out, and we'll just keep lightly layering it on. I might put a little bit more reducer in it and maybe do 1 or 2 more coats with this color, and maybe we'll top it off with that older paint that we have. So I'm gonna let this set for about 15-20 minutes, and we'll put another coat on. Let me actually take you out there real quick and show you what it's looking like. This is gonna end up being a long video because of this problems we're having, but it is starting to cover. It's just taking forever. Now I could have put a gray sealer on the whole hood, and it might have covered a little bit better because it would have all been one color. But the problem is, if I were to put a clear or a gray sealer over the whole hood, I run the risks of it being really off in color from the fenders. It's probably already going to be off from the fenders because I'm having to hit that edge with some color, but I still have some of that original color on the hood in spots. So I'm trying to see if I can't blend this new color kind of into it. So I'm trying to keep it so that he doesn't have to worry about getting the fenders painted in the future, or at least the tops of the fenders blended down the sides a little bit and then re-clear. Might have to do that. I mean, it is what it is. There's only so much we can do with what we're working with. So we'll let that dry and I'll be back. Okay, I had let that set for almost a half an hour actually. So that was the 4th coat that we had done. Now we're going to get into coat number 5, and let's see how this coat covers. I'm going to put a little bit more paint in here, a little bit more reducer. At this point, I'm kind of just doing the consistency on how it feels rather than mixing it 1 to 1 or 1 to 1/2, whichever. Probably going to do 2 more coats of this color, and then we'll probably end up topping it off with that old color I have left over. This is thinner than the 4th coat. I reduced this one a little more than the 4th coat, because remember on the 4th coat we actually added just straight paint to what I had left in the cup. I'm going to tack cloth that hood off first before I put this coat on, because it has been sitting for a half an hour now. So I'm going to go tack cloth it, and then we'll get set up for coat number 5.
covered. But the problem I'm having is this color does not match the other color at all. This side still got a little bit that's not covering, but this new color is nowhere near the color of the original. Hopefully I have enough of that other color to make this color look right. If not, I'm going to have to be painting it again. So we will do one more coat of this wrong color now, and hopefully by then I'm covered to the point where I can use what I have left of that other can. Okay, I kind of just dusted that last coat on to kind of cover everything. I'm actually going to wash the gun out, get a new mixing cup and everything, and then we'll mix up what we have left of that other color, and hopefully I can get it blended in. If I can't get it to blend in because I don't have enough product, what I'll have to do is put a coat or two of clear on it and have to sand it down and repaint it. Nothing I can do about it. Can only work with what I have here. I don't have the ability here to mix any paint, so it is what it is. So I'm going to go ahead and pause this, get the gun clean, get a new mixing cup and everything ready, and we will try to make this work with what we have left of that other paint, which not looking too good. Okay, if you look at the video here, you can see how different the color is over here versus there. That's the exact same paint coat I gave them off the old can, and that's how far off the color is from 13 to 15 years ago versus today. So I have about a half a cup, about that much in the cup of that old color ready to go. I'm going to see if I can't possibly try to blend this out. I don't think I'm gonna have enough to make this work. Get a little bit left in the gun here. This color, the old color, night and day difference from what they mixed yesterday. I mean, it's just way off. It's frustrating. Shouldn't be having these issues, but I've been having these issues with PPG now for the past couple months. So I'm pretty much officially done with them. I will not be using their product anymore other than if I have no choice. Like in this case, I'm trying to match an old paint job, so you would think that you would be able to do that. What I'm doing is I'm taking a little bit of this binder clear base coat and seeing if I can't try to thin this out a little bit, try to blend it in some more. Most of this hood's getting covered with a decal, so the edges in the front are the most important. So I'm just trying to make this work, but I don't want it to look like complete crap either. So I'll use up what I have here. I reduce this a little bit more with this binder, Intercoat Clear, whatever you want to call it. So that's going to thin this color out a little bit more. And we're going to try to just blow a couple light coats on it. As you can see, I'm kind of just going all over the place, trying to mist it in, trying to flow it out to try to match the best I can. Hopefully I don't end up with a bunch of modeling from the metallics. I just don't know. At this point, I don't know what's going to happen other than I just need to do what I can with what I have, get it cleared, and move on from there. If I gotta sand it down and put some more color on it, that's what I'll end up doing. But the good thing is at least I'll get it all locked down with some clear, and it'll be pretty easy to spray over top of that. dark over here and lighter over there. So I'm pretty confident it's going to be pretty blotchy once the clear goes on. Nothing else I can do, unfortunately. This is all the materials I have to work with for today. So we'll just get it locked in with a couple of coats of clear, and then we'll have to go back over it with different paint. So I'm going to mix up some clear here, and I'm going to show this video. There's no reason not to. I want to show it because I want people to know that not everything I do or anybody else does is perfect. This is real. This is not scripted. This is not edited or anything like that. I don't edit my videos. What happens, happens. And this is what's happening in this case. Unfortunately, there's nothing I can do about it. So, rather than being upset or anything like that over it, it's not worth it. Just keep moving on. Finish it up. Let it dry. And just fix it another day. There's really not much you can do about it. So this is a 4-to-1 mix clear. 4 parts clear, 1 part hardener. It's a medium solid clear. We're going to mix up 20 ounces, and then if you mix up 20 ounces, every 4 ounces is 1 ounce of hardener. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 ounces of hardener, 20 ounces of clear. So we'll just split the line between 24 and 26. So we're going to stop at 20. Lost my lid. There it is. You're not going to put any reducer in it. If you start putting reducer in your clear, you'll get, it's called dieback, where once it dries, it'll kind of look dry. You know, it'll look kind of dull. So you don't want to use a lot of reducer. You could put a tiny bit of reducer in the last coat just to help it flow out. But, and also your hardeners also make a difference as well. I'm using a medium hardener. This hardener is recommended for 70 to 80 degrees. Right now, the spray booth I think is at about 70 degrees. So we're right in the range of where we need to be. If that spray booth were at 80 or above, we want to use a slower hardener. What it does is if you use a slower hardener, we can use a slower hardener today too, really, and have it flow out a little bit flatter because it'll take longer to set up. So meaning when you spray, let's say a slower hardener, when it hits the panel and it's sitting on there, it's going to flow out a little bit more before it starts to dry up on you. You know, a medium hardener is going to hit the panel and not flow as much if it is too hot in there. So it's a little confusing to explain, but so now we got clear mixed up. We're going to go ahead and fill up our gun, our cup, go out there and get the first coat of clear on, and then we can see how blotchy it really is. We don't have to worry about a strainer because the strainer's in the lid. All right, I'm going to get set up and put a coat of clear on. Okay, that's coat number 1 of clear. It is a little dry. Don't go loading on your first coat super heavy. That'll cause runs. So your first coat you want to kind of put down a little bit lighter so that it can grab to the paint kind of as act like an adhesive to stick that first coat down. We're going to wait 10 minutes before we put the second coat on. It's drying pretty quick even at 70 degrees. I think I'm going to mix up some more clear with a slow hardener. Try to slow it down a little bit to get it to flow out. We'll see what it looks like. A little bit dull, but it is a little. First coat, you know, obviously is not as thick as I normally would put it. I'm doing about a 75% overlap. So I'm going to mix up, let's go 16 ounces. The color's actually not looking too bad. It is a little blotchy, but I need to get another coat on there to get it really glossy and take a look at what it's going to look like. So I'm going to pause this, mix up some more clear. I'm going to put a slow reducer in this batch, and then I'm going to take a little bit out of here and mix it in with that. It's cleared. Doesn't look good like I said it wouldn't. If you look at how dark that patch is right there. Look at the blotchiness in this, which I knew that was going to happen because I didn't have enough of the right color to go over top to correct the wrong color that they mixed yesterday. So that's going to end this video. I just figured I'd show you guys that I knew it was going to be blotchy because I knew I didn't have enough color to fix that first color that was wrong. So that's going to end this video. Just wanted to show you guys what happens when things do go wrong, which it does happen. Unfortunately, there's nothing you can do about it. I did clear it because then I could just 600 wet sand this down, maybe shoot one light coat of intercoat clear, and then kind of just put the new color over top. Shouldn't have to use a lot of the new color because this is already a good base underneath it. So hopefully a pint should be more than enough of color to make that right. Now, unfortunately, PPG sucks anymore, and they apparently can't match anything. So now I'm going to probably go to Spies Hecker, have them come out again with their gun. I'll have to give them a part of this car, have them match it like they did with the 59 Impala, and I'll have to repaint the hood again. So this is just a lesson learned. This is the last paint job right here that I'm going to be using PPG paint for, and that's going to be for the motorcycle. This I'm pretty confident with because I've used this before. This is an older paint. This was actually mixed in, let me see if I can find the date here when this was mixed, 2019. So this is 4-year-old paint. I've had it on my shelf. And I got a pint mixed yesterday. I'm going to use this pint for my beginning coats, and then I have plenty to top it off with. I'm painting 2 fenders, a gas tank, a dashboard, a couple little parts, and 2 bags for the rear, fiberglass bags. So this should be more than enough because technically this should be a 1-to-1 mix. Should make a quart here. This is almost a quart. It's up to about there, which this is just under a half a gallon right here. So we should be fine with this. It wouldn't have mattered if I had bought more of this gold yesterday because the color was so far off. It wouldn't have mattered if I had more of this or not because the hood's off. I wish I would have had more of the old because then I could have blended it in, you know, and it would have looked great. So that's going to end this video, guys. So now you get to see a video where things don't work out right. Thanks, guys, for watching. If you like what you're seeing, please like and subscribe. I will probably make another video of me sanding this hood down and correcting it. So you guys have a good afternoon. I'll see you guys later.